Hi, this is David Belsky, the CEO and founder of FlowerHire. Today we have a fantastic interview. Angela Bradway, thanks for coming.
Appreciate you having me. My name is
Absolutely.
Bradway. I'm from Canna Management and House of Ambassadors.
So, what is Canna Management House of Ambassadors? What type of service do you provide to the cannabis industry?
Yeah, of course. So, Canna Management, we do event management and experiential marketing. So, when it comes down to curating the perfect vibe or experience within your event goals, right? So, if you're doing brand launches down to curated dinner parties, we can really help curate that list and help you manage all the pieces in between. So HOA is House of Ambassadors, and we provide brand ambassador recruitment and staffing for the cannabis industry. So we do in-store pop-ups, conferences, events, street teams, festivals, and all the fun things.
Wow, so much to talk about. So the idea of any event in cannabis that a brand or retailer or operator would want to execute on, you have done, have a playbook for, and can get set up with the right people in the room for them, and then not have to worry about it.
Yeah, it really just takes the entire project off of the internal team, right? So what we see is really like their marketing team's bandwidth is just not able to really put the effort into curating the event experience they want. So our team comes in and we manage it and curate the experience and the energy and the venue and the food. Even going down to doing some of the pairings with the cannabis. So it's really exciting to be a part of that brand's journey, to send that experience and message off to the consumers, whether it's the wholesale buyers or whether you're doing an appreciation event within the community and just, reaching out to your consumers.
And so that's Canna Management is the events business focused on the curation execution of cannabis-based events.
Yeah.
And House of Ambassadors. Uh, so many times in the last 8.5 years of running FlowerHire, I've people have asked me the question: do you know a service that provides brand ambassadors, contractors, fractional, um, anything? And there seems to always be this push and pull internally within a plant touching cannabis company is like, do we build an in-house brand team? Do we use contractors? And it's like all over the place. And so when I heard that you, Angela Bradway, had successfully figured out a scalable model to be a service provider to actually find, you know, brand ambassadors that can promote your brand at events that you don't have to recruit or train, and have you handle that, almost like an RPO business, recruitment process outsourcing for brand ambassadors. I'm like, this is awesome. This is something that the industry needs,
Yeah.
and the fact you've been able to figure this out. So we'll get more into that. What
Yeah.
was your sort of career story before cannabis, and what was your like aha moment that this industry needed you to do this, what you're doing?
Yeah. So about 6 or 7 years ago, I got into the industry. I got into the social equity program. Unfortunately, I had a father that was convicted of a felony due to carrying weight in cannabis. And essentially kind of like just the OG, just like trying to make people feel better and give them safe access. And he was a veteran it just was so frowned upon. So that kind of started like the career goal of like, okay, I had access into the social equity program. And then with that, right, it was during COVID. And so I did a lot of online consulting and just really just, mentoring the other social equity participants. Through that process and experience, I got 8 HCAs, which are host community agreements, for retail operations to delivery to cultivation to manufacturing. So all of them, right? And so I got the 8 HCAs, I got the partners, and then I found the investors. And through this process, I had already launched Canna Management. So I was hosting events essentially to see who I wanted to partner with, what brands I wanted to represent, what service providers had the best value, who had the best reputation. And so, in order to get that intel, I really embraced the cannabis community early on before like the dispensary was an idea. So at this point, Canna Management was going, strong. Our first few events that we hosted, it was just all executive teams, owners, founders, just looking for those opportunities to develop their business or their brand. So I seen this unique opportunity to build community within the industry. And through that process, and experience and insights, I made a decision to step away from Massachusetts Cannabis Company and not operate those eight HCAs, and really like spend my time and my effort into Canna Management. So that's been operating for a few years. And about 2 years ago, we launched HOA as just like we seen the need in the industry. Like people were really struggling to keep somebody on all year for brand ambassador work. And we recognized how flexible that we had to be within our services that we were offering to really provide, like, something that they could afford, which was, that part time work that they didn't have to train, they didn't have to go in and do the logistical, coordination or the organization, or the planning of all the pop ups, right? So, we just seen this really great opportunity to really help the brands and operators we are already working with. So I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be in a space where I recognize what I did well, and I stayed in my lane of opportunity, which has really strengthened our company over the years.
You know, let's take a step back here. So if I'm a cannabis brand, how am I able to do brand marketing? How do I do retail activations? What's the role of a brand ambassador, and why is that so important in cannabis marketing?
Well, I think we've come to a place, right, where especially the new states that are becoming, medical and recreational, I think that we find that there's a lack of education, right? There's no direct education for those bud tenders, for those consumers coming into those dispensaries. So, what we see like really effective for brands or multi-state operating companies or even the smaller mom and pop shops, right? Like we've seen this consistency of what works in marketing in the cannabis space, right? And yeah, billboards can be extremely effective and all of that. But if you don't have a budget for that, right? Like, how can we explore outside of the traditional box and really get our boots on the ground and engage with the consumers, the bud tenders? For us, it was really about that lack of communication between the brand and the bud tender, and those bud tenders really you rely on those bud tenders to share those messages about the brand or the experience that the brand creates. So those in-store pop-ups are incredibly important just to maintain that education and consistency throughout the dispensaries, especially for these multi-state brands where you're held to a different standard, and you really want that consistency and that education to be kind of the center of what you're doing. And of course, in-store pop-ups, are hard to measure that ROI. And so with our effective strategy, we've had ways that we can really be more effective with our BA's time, in their responsibilities while they're in store to really maximize the impact of our program. It can be really effective to go into festivals or community activations, whether
Right.
Patrick's Day parade or a pride parade, right? Our team can effectively go in there and market your dispensary, your brand on a max scale to a huge customer base. So we just are really effective in what we're doing in that marketing budget, because we see as the industry evolves, one of those budgets that is typically taken away first is that marketing budget. So although you can put in all of those, ads and do all that, you really need some education on the ground to keep those relationships going. You know.
Yeah. Well, you think about, the lack of certain digital marketing that's available to this industry based on it being federally illegal. And you think about the idea that you have just a whole bunch of fancy packaging, and sometimes depending on the state, you can't even see the packaging because it's on a kiosk. And so to even like interact with a customer and tell a brand story, if you get the right customer in at the right time, you create LTV from that interaction if you have a brand ambassador that can really tell that story. It's that, and like working with bud tenders to like understand, the products as well. But it sounds like it's not just the in retail, it's like any in-person activation, whether it's an industry event or another event that allows a cannabis sponsor to be able to have a booth and talk to the community, engage about your specific retail or product story.
Right. I mean, we're still in a point in our society that we still have to continuously reduce the stigma of our industry, right? So I feel like even as we evolve in Massachusetts a few years out, we still have to educate and reduce that stigma. So the more that you see your dispensary with, six teammates walking down the parade and handing out beads with promotional flyers on it, you engage your community and you tell them like, hey, they're just like us, or it really creates that visibility for the community. So as much as you want to active, like industry events are always going to be important to sponsor and engage and really highlight your products within the community. But when you're looking at oversaturated markets, for example, Massachusetts, and we're saying, okay, this brand, might not be doing well in this, targeted, area of our state, like we can really target that audience and push that message into a new light. For example, if you see a gummy is doing extremely well in a particular part of the state, like we'll activate our team primarily over there if that's where the brand is represented well. And in the areas it's not selling well, we really lean on those moments of education within the community. And again, like I think in oversaturated markets, we have to look at how do we reach the new customer, right? So we're not even touching on population here. It's so the minute that you really engage that new clientele, which is, going into those wellness retreat centers, yoga centers, where you're focusing on who is primarily buying cannabis in your area. So for us in Massachusetts, we see, most of over 54% or something like that is women that are buying, So when we look at those numbers and then when we see in certain areas, those age demographics are, between 65 and 80, it's like we're not even reaching that end of marketing out to a whole community that could really benefit from some of these medicinal cannabis products, right? So,
Right. Well, there's definitely gaps, and that's a way to solve that. So, why historically is it so challenging for a cannabis company to find the right brand ambassadors for events? Like why is it such a pain point that I've heard? Like we've never recruited for brand ambassadors specifically. We've recruited like field marketing or directors of trade marketing that are running like a field marketing ground game, so to speak, but not necessarily brand ambassadors. But it just seems like it's like high turnover, and at the same time, it's not guaranteed work. Like, what are the challenges in finding a good brand ambassador?
yeah, I mean, you definitely nailed it there, right? The turnover rate is high. It's a high cost to train them well if they're not already familiar in the space. But I take a different approach. So I really look at this position as a transitional position for entry level community members to get in the industry. And so I take this flexible approach, right? So we have team members that have been on our team for upwards of 3 to 4 years, right?
Wow.
And that really, how do you keep a VA though? You pay them well, you treat them well, you hear their pain points, you give them the materials that they need to be successful, but you also have to be flexible. And what I find with some of my best BAs is they have a certain energy about them, right? They're the light in the room, and that
Yeah.
really is like the key of making a successful brand ambassador is getting somebody that can actively engage anyone and carelessly walk in the room and grab the attention of capture the attention of the room, and that's really like what we look for. So although people's resumes and experience is extremely important to me, that energy and that personality match, right? Like just because somebody's a good brand ambassador doesn't mean they're going to be a great brand ambassador on your brand, right? So they could be a great BA, but they just don't sell your product well because they don't believe in it, right? And we've seen that happen where, just it's a personality match. It's just like, for example, if somebody is just like not a vape person and you put them on a vape product, like it's just, you want to make sure that you get that natural excitement out of it. But again, it's keeping a flexible schedule with your brand ambassadors that has been the most helpful for us as a team.
Yeah, but you definitely hinted at some I'd call intangibles, but like characteristics that you look for that's instinctual at this point because you've done it so many times about like what it is that you look for in that sort of energy and their passion coming through in terms of how they speak about something. Well, finding that and finding that alignment with whatever cannabis plant or product, they're going to crush it. And you said two different things that don't necessarily make sense together, but let's talk about them in terms of how you flexibility is important,
Yeah.
right? And you also want people that like look at it as a stepping stone. So is it like you have your kind of gypsy types, my words, not yours, that are like don't like to conform to a normal schedule, but are really excited about this industry and fit well with the people here that are just, that just like some occasional work, and then you have the folks that you've been able to talk to and identify that are like, you want to work in cannabis. This is your stepping stone. I'm willing for it to be your stepping stone, but this is how you need to approach these events and these opportunity to be able to find your path forward.
Yeah, and I think like giving that opportunity for your team to come to you. We have a big policy in our company. Like, if your energy is off, like, please try to cover your shift. Like, if you know that your energy is just not going to be on point, unless somebody is obviously like taking advantage of that. But we really do understand that the community that we're hiring, a lot of them are, we have an all woman team as well. So we have a lot of entrepreneurs. We have a lot of mothers on our team. We have a lot of people who love to travel, people who work full time jobs that just want consistent weekend hours, right? So we find that we're also looking for a very certain type of person, right? So somebody that can be flexible, that is okay with last minute, plans. Because I think, again, in this space, we see that sometimes we all have clients call us and they need staffing next week. And so really it's just,
Right.
uh,
Right. Right. 100%. Like,
yeah,
I need people tomorrow. I'm
yeah.
screwed. And you're like,
And
well, do you're like, all right, I'm going to charge you triple, but I'll try. Is
yeah,
that
like you work great under pressure.
sure? You have to, because no one plans ahead that well in this industry yet.
Absolutely. But really, I think like listening to what your brand ambassadors say, because, their experience out in the field is their experience, right? And validating, the vibes that they like, because we have dispensaries that are just very unwelcoming, right? And if like we had three or more people saying like, hey, they're just like super unwelcoming, it's just not a pleasant experience, we just like then start like not just scheduling to a dispensary that's more welcoming, right? So it really goes down to hiring people that you can be flexible with, but also not burning them out. So what we see a lot is they'll have a brand or an operation and they have like one or two BAs for a huge state. So now they're requiring them to travel sometimes 3 hours to a pop-up. So people can do that and be excited about that for a little while, but people get burnt out. And so that's where I think you see that
Totally.
happening is that burnout, or they've given themselves enough experience to advance into the next position of their choice in the industry, you know?
Yeah. Well, you've talked, about Massachusetts. Obviously, that's where you started, but like for HOA and Canna management, it's like you're now launching your like brand ambassador on demand type service in other markets. Like I just saw you in Jersey last week. Holla. But are you guys working with brands in Jersey? Like what's going on now?
Yeah. So as far as Canna management, we've always been able to do events and manage events effectively wherever we are. It's really just like curating the right people for the event, and making sure you're doing data pulls to make sure that you're having the right event experience. But as far as the brand support, right? Like the logistics are intense on in-store pop-ups. So we are extremely mindful of as we're expanding the states that we're expanding into. And Jersey is close to home for us. Our main focus right now for HOA support is the Northeast. We do see that changing in the next, say a year. We might be in a few more states on top of that. But again, it's making sure that we're in a space that makes sense for us and makes sense for our operators. So as we're looking at new states to engage, we're really being mindful of the overall community and what their activations look like, right? So some stores are just not pop up states, right? So we also have to take time to analyze each state individually. And again, Jersey is just such an exciting market right now. It's been great to see the community evolve over the last few years, and so now we're very confident with our ability to pull what we're doing in Massachusetts and in New Jersey, Maryland, New York would be our top focus immediately. So
Well, and you in there, let's be honest, there's also brands that operate in all those markets that, if you partner or have customers with the right brands, you're part of their marketing strategy, and brands that focus on multiple states in the East Coast tend to have like one kind of like revenue marketing
right.
person.
That's complicated to have like one third party kind of managing that. Um,
Yeah.
Brand ambassadors specifically are a whole ecosystem of itself, right? And so, for example, in like, I think it was December, we did over 200 pop-ups, right, that month. So
Jesus.
real in just Massachusetts. So it was really impressive to see your team in full action and then barely have to call your clients. Like we don't call our clients or engage like unless it's like absolutely necessary, or there's like some crazy emergency going on. So
Right.
really been able to take that project off of our clients' hands. And in addition, because we're doing an inventory management, right? Like we're looking at their inventory. I can't speak more highly of Little Alerts. They've been such an amazing partner to work with. But if you're not on Little Alerts, definitely Google them, figure out who they are. But essentially, we can really monitor that inventory and say, hey, this, we see that you want to do a pop up, but unfortunately, the inventory is not there to support it. Would you like to reorder? And so some of our clients are seeing upwards of 20% increase of revenue each month by us pushing those reorders. So that's exciting as well when you see like brands or staff that is beyond their bandwidth or overwhelmed, and then you just solve the solution. Like not like I'm going to handle all of your BA management and take care of all the chaos. We're going to do the in-store merchandising, make sure that's on point. We're going to do inventory management. We're going to collect feedback. We're going to educate the bud tenders and the consumers. We'll engage any activation or raffle or any kind of engagement that we're doing. So not only are we providing like this exceptional experience, but it's also like a data pull, and we're making sure we're getting that feedback from the bud tenders, especially like if it's a new product, right? Like some of these brands, like they need unbiased feedback, and so our team really has does a great job at capturing that.
Yeah, well, it makes sense in order to sell your service, considering the challenges of budgets and other things when you're providing that service. You have to provide strategic value. So the fact that you understand and how to get that brand to drive sell through in their targeted retail partners and have evidence and facts and data to support that, and then it becomes a win-win because the retailers love it when a brand invests in marketing in their store too and brings customers in, right? And it's just a matter of getting those brands to understand how working with you is going to directly impact that. And then it's a hard thing to say no to. And
Yeah.
then they appreciate you so much as a partner,
Yeah.
right? They treat you like a partner from a relationship perspective, not a vendor, right?
You always like when you're a third party, right? Like I also have to look at it as it's not just my reputation, but it's the brand's reputation, right? So like when you're going into any of these situations or like hiring the right brand ambassador, it really goes down to like those core values that we hold of, are you going to be where you say you're going to be? Like, are you responsible, reliable? Do you show up and do a good job? Do you engage the community? And again, I think like these dispensaries are looking for that support, right? Like whether that's on social media, which has been a tremendous help for measuring that ROI, right? So when you're saying, okay, not only are we increasing that, those reorders and getting all of that going, but we also are seeing like a tremendous amount of impressions on social media. And so when you have good dispensary partners and they're sharing it, the brand is sharing it, you're sharing it, your brand ambassador sharing it, and then your teammates on your brand ambassador teams are then sharing it. It just like the amount of impressions that is getting is really impressive, So it's exciting to watch some of these brands, just get so hyped up by our brand support. And again, that comes with that personality match where that natural excitement is happening.
Are you allowed to say who your favorite brands are?
My favorite brands. That's a tricky one. I think I'm allowed. I mean, in my favorite brands, that's a really tricky one. Here in Massachusetts or like multi-state?
Massachusetts. Go to the Commonwealth.
So, particularly to work with, I find that, Squires is our client right now, and he's probably got the most passion of any operator. His products are incredible. He's a chef by nature, so he really puts in that extra effort into his products. So although like he's our client, I really like love cheering for him. As far as those infused and fun pre-rolls, like Jeter is probably got my vote. You really the craft cannabis, I mean, the industry here, like we have some really good craft cultivators. I think Tower 3 is probably my favorite flower brand here in Mass. But then you have these multi-state brands like Miss Grass and Arrow, and like Air Wellness has been amazing to work with. Ascend has been wonderful to work with, and a lot of that's relationship building. And so I find that, being in my position of, giving this education and resources, like we represented brands like doing medical cards, in everything, right? So like I always like believe in representing affordable options for everyone. But it really I love that we have a flexible team and we can, promote for those craft cultivators or those like
Yeah, that's a
it
wide range. That's such a wide range, but you're hitting all the things there, and you sound like you love your job, you love your customers. I love love as well. Um, so my final question for you, let's say there's an entrepreneur out there, or there's somebody working in the industry, or considering working in the industry, but they're like, I'm going to go start this company. An entrepreneur who finds their lane and they're like, I'm going to do this brand, I'm going to be this provider, the industry needs this. Any advice for that entrepreneur that has that cannabis itch?
Yeah, make space for yourself at the table. Nobody else is going to make space for yourself. So make sure you make space for yourself at the table. If you believe in your services,
Mm.
product or your brand, really don't give up so easily. Just make space for yourself. I promise with showing up and being all over the place sometimes it really does pay off when you're looking at a sustainable company within the industry. So always say that, just make space for yourself at the table.
That's right. You gotta take care of yourself, and you gotta figure out like how to be part of that table,
Well,
and it's like getting to that table is the challenge, you
yeah,
know?
but again, I think it is a challenge, but as an entrepreneur, I think using your small marketing budget or any limited budget, strategically, right? Like, go in with pure intentions. Like, when I go to conferences, when I've been lucky enough to go all over the country for conferences, and really, like, it's strategic partnerships that have helped me create the opportunity to keep going to these conferences, but knowing that it's very intentional, right? So when I go to a conference, I'm already going through the speaker list, who I want to, have conversations with which companies would be in my best, you know in my best scenario to go and have conversations with or learn from. So I think, like, go in with an open mind, but also, have a plan and know who you want to learn from, because we are in an industry where people are happy to share information, and people are more than happy to mentor. But staying focused can be really hard in a really uncertain industry. So I think just not giving up, and having that courage to do it scared. Just, do it scared, because it's scary, and this industry has just started. So we're pioneering it right now, and the more that we can collaborate and learn from each other, the stronger that we can be as a whole community. you know
That's right. There's space for you all. Um, that being said, you got to come correct and get ready to have it be hard and probably fail a lot. And if you build the right relationships, you can get through it and figure it out. You
Yeah.
know, congrats again to you for again identifying a problem that you were naturally equipped to solve in terms of orchestrating and executing on world-class events and curating the audience and getting viable brand teams to support all different types of brands in this industry and being able to make sure those customers experience ROI from your services. Um, Fantastic to hear. Thanks for sharing the story today. And I can't wait to see, how many teams you get to. You'd mentioned in Massachusetts was, well, one weekend recently, you had 200 different pop-ups
Yeah, in 1 month it was
in
200 ups.
1 month and 200 pop-ups. Like, this is like, so when we're talking about scale of events, like you need like dozens of people at least, right, to be willing to in Massachusetts they're
Yeah,
going to show up to those events.
yeah. And especially when your clients all want people on the same days, right? Like,
420, like 420 or 419.
but we're constantly onboarding, we're constantly outreaching, we're always interviewing. So we're always, continuously building our team. And especially, again, because we're that transitional position in the industry, that we also, have our teammates leaving for bigger opportunities, using their transferable skills and their experience from being a BA with our team. So it's been really a blessing to watch our teammates grow, and then grow within the industry, and evolve into their next space, into their cannabis career. But we're excited to be the stepping stone in the process, and that's kind of a motto that I've gone through, and is like, a BA is here because we're a stepping stone in their journey to the next place that they want to be in their career in the cannabis space. And so really, giving your team the opportunity to grow with you, or providing them the best opportunity to work with a brand, has been really incredible to watch. So we're just grateful to be in the industry, grateful to be a part of the movement, and happy to support the community that is really making waves right now through the country. And it's exciting to see. I mean, I don't think that I would have thought 15 years ago we'd be in this position now. So
Hey, I think it's a good stopping point. Angela, thank you for joining us today. This was
yeah.
exciting. Get your word out there. Find a good street team. to interact with customers and drive revenue. You know, a tale as old as time, but works effectively in this industry with partners like Angela. Thank you very much.
Thanks, David.